Welcome to the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce, bringing you the right information right now to sculpt a more meaningful and memorable life of success. Join us each week to discover gems to help you grow your mental toughness, expand your will to win, and multiply your results. It's never been easier to learn what to do and how to do it to succeed at what you choose to do. This is truly an experience you won't find anywhere else. Now, here's your host, the Success Sculptor himself, Stephen Pierce.
Welcome to another episode of the Success Sculpting Show. I am your host, Stephen Pierce, and today we are going to talk about 6 actions that can change your life. 6 actions, because we know how the deal goes, right? The deal is take action, take action, take action. And first of all, let me tell you, I truly believe that your number one competitive advantage in life, in business, in whatever it is you're choosing to do, is action. You may think you need more intelligence, you need more information, you need more money, you need more relationships, you need more of whatever those resources are. And to some extent, you may need that. However, what precedes all of that is action. And I truly believe it's your number one competitive advantage, because most people take very little of it. And of those that take some kind of action, they don't take it consistently enough and persistently enough. And a lot of the action is haphazard, sporadic, occasional when they feel like it. So if you are the type that takes consistent action, boom, you pretty much already are leveraging your number one competitive advantage. Now, I want to talk to you about 6 different types of actions. And the reason why is because the whole idea of taking action is really general, and we kind of get it, take action. But let's break down and take a look at the 6 types of actions that you can take. And once you understand these 6 different types and the dimensions that they live in, you can now go and take these specific types of actions to change your life. Now, first thing is, the first 2 actions come from hindsight and foresight. Okay, so when you look at hindsight, you know they're saying, hey, hindsight is 20/20, right? So you're looking backwards and you're looking at certain things. So let's just say you're looking backwards in hindsight, and it's like, man, you know what? I never want that to happen again. Whatever it is, in whatever area of your life, you never want that to happen again. So going forward, what you take is a corrective action. You take a corrective action to make sure that whatever that thing was that happened in the past doesn't happen again. So write that down, a corrective action, right? Because that is specifically focused on something you're referencing in hindsight to make sure that doesn't happen again. So you're correcting your mindset, or you're correcting a certain habit, or you're correcting something specific that relates to maybe money management or sales and marketing or health, okay? Now, the second kind of action is dealing with foresight. Foresight, kind of looking ahead, looking at certain things that are to come based on patterns that you may recognize, or based on whatever, I don't know, because there's a lot of different things that change, right? Technology changes, economies change, societies change, information changes, people change, places change, the weather changes. So the type of action you want to take based on foresight is called an adaptive action. Any company that's still in existence today, that's been around for, say, 15, 20, maybe 30 years, they've had to take lots of adaptive actions, because 30 years ago, the internet wasn't what it is today. So companies had to adapt to the change in technology, adapt to how groups and societies were communicating with each other, adapt to the fact that, hey, you no longer can just reach people in your locale, like your zip code or area code. You can now cross the waters without actually leaving from your city, your location, because of the internet. And then social media emerged. So now there was a whole adapting to that. And then messaging changed, where it wasn't necessarily what you were saying about your product, it was what the consumers were saying about your product, because it was no longer really about your content. It now became consumer and user generated content. So companies had to adapt to that. And then maybe on a more simpler level, you go out with an umbrella and you adapt to the rain when you open up the umbrella, right? So you're adapting to the change in the weather. So an adaptive action to me is probably, all of these actions are important, but that is one of the most powerful ones, because the person that adapts, that is most flexible and most fluid in their ability to adapt, have the higher probability of winning. If you look at athletes and you look at sports, the one key thing they all have in common, whether it's one-on-one, like two men or women playing tennis, or it's team sports where you have football teams and basketball teams or soccer teams, the one thing that is constantly happening and fluid on the court or on the field is adapting to what the opponent is doing. A lot of us, we try to approach life with this fixed mindset, with these fixed actions and this linear approach where if I take one step, this step, like step one, and then I step two, and then I take step three, then I'm going to win and I'm going to succeed. And that's not how it is. The recipe for success in life is not like the recipe in the kitchen, right? And you maybe heard me say this before on a previous show, that recipes like that are for controlled environments. You can control the temperature of the oven. You can control the different ingredients when you're putting together a recipe, like you're cooking some kind of meal. But when it comes down to success, or it comes down to competing in contested environments, it's more about strategy and your ability to adapt to what the opponent is doing, as opposed to this linear step-by-step, paint-by-numbers approach. So truly, one of the most effective actions is the ability to adapt and make adaptive actions and take adaptive actions. If you're really rigid and you're not flexible, man, you're really going to be hurting yourself. Because what happens is, and the sign of a person that's not really flexible, they complain about a lot of things that change instead of just flow with the things that change. Now, you may not necessarily like it, but you flow with it, right? Because, hey, it's happening, and arguing with reality is not going to change reality. Whatever has changed has changed. And now our own personal responsibility is to adapt to it the best way we can, to continue making our progress, to continue moving ahead and continue marching forward so that we can win. So truly, now you want to mark this one down, you want to highlight it, you want to circle it, you want to underline it, write it in big, bold letters, adaptive actions. Because something is constantly changing in your environment. Something is constantly changing around you. Things could be changing in your health, right? The moment somebody finds out they're diabetic, they have to start adapting their diet, right? Otherwise, they're going to be in a world of hurt. They're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I want you to look at your life, and I want you to look at the different things that are not working, and they're not working not because they can't work or they won't work, but the reason they're not working is because of your own refusal to adapt to what has changed. So what you're doing is you're arguing with the change and resisting the change, as opposed to adapting to the change and finding a new and better position to win. Okay. All right. So so that's two of them. We got corrective actions and we have adaptive actions. Now let's talk about two more. One is called a preventive action. And these kind of go together, a preventive action and a contingency action. Now, a preventive action are actions that you're taking to look to prevent certain things from happening. So let's just say, for example, you own apartment buildings, or you own commercial buildings, or anybody owns them. Well, we know people own them because they're all over the place. And you'll see a no smoking sign. And that could be for various reasons. It could be for health reasons, or you just don't want people smoking on your property, or you just don't want the place to burn down, or there's no fireworks, or whatever. So that is an action that you took to prevent people from smoking, to prevent fireworks from going off, and maybe ultimately to prevent a fire from happening on your property. So that's a preventive action. Anything that you're doing to look to prevent a negative from happening. Now, a contingency action is, well, I know I took the preventive action, I put certain measures in place, but guess what? What if that doesn't stick? What if that doesn't necessarily work? Now what you want to have in place is a contingency action. Going back to the building, let's just say you have the no smoking sign up. And let's just say your main reason for that is, hey man, look, you don't want the building to burn down. You don't want to get a fire. Well, a contingency action is the fire extinguishers. just in case there's a fire that takes place. The contingency plan and the action that you took was to put fire extinguishers in there so that if it happens, boom, somebody or groups of people can grab the fire extinguishers and do the best they can to put the fire out. Now, also in there are sprinkler systems, and that will kind of be more like an action to adapt the environment to the change in the environment. So when there's no fire happening in the environment, those fire extinguishers, the sprinkler systems are not going to be going off. But the moment there's fire and there's smoke, the environment has changed. So you took an action to put the sprinkler system in that will adapt and start to shoot the water all over the place to do what? To put the fire out. So in your life, you want to look at if there's something that you don't want to have happen. Let's just say, for example, you're in sales. Well, you obviously want to get the maximum number of sales that you want, whether you're cold calling or you're cold walking in or you're doing it by appointment or you're calling leads inbound, outbound, whatever. So now you're never going to really close 100% of the people, but you can do a whole lot better than probably what it is you're doing right now. Now, to prevent yourself from losing more sales than you have to, you brush up on your sales skills. You learn how to do the opening. You learn how to ask the right questions, right? You learn how to lead them as opposed to push them, right? You're leading them with the questions as opposed to talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. So the whole point is you're looking to prevent the loss of unnecessary sales by improving your sales skills. Now, let's just say a person gives you an objection. A lot of people don't necessarily study dealing with objections or objection handling or overcoming objections, however you want to phrase it. However, that's a contingency. Hey, if they say no, here's where we're going to go. If they say they can't afford it, here's where we're going to go. If they say, let me think about it, here's where we're going to go. If they say, let me check with my spouse or my partner, here's where we're going to go. So you have those contingencies in place, right? Or if they say, hey, listen, I have some of the money or I need a payment plan or whatever, you may have something in place to adapt to their financial circumstances. So remember, the whole point here is that action is just not action. There's different types of actions that are needed for different types of situations. And if you classify the situations and you're looking to take action, you're scheduling your day and you're looking at what you're going to do, you can have a better idea on, hey, when I take this action, is this going to be corrective of something that I don't want to have happen again that I did? Is this going to be adapting to something that's going on right now so that I can win more business or I can improve my health or improve my relationships or whatever? Is this going to be preventing a negative thing from happening that I don't want to have happen? Is this going to be a contingency just in case something happens that I don't want to have happen? Right now, I know it may seem like it's getting granular, but guess what? If you think about a contingency action in football, what is an audible that, for those that understand American football, what is an audible that a quarterback calls when they go to the line of scrimmage? First of all, they have contingency plans which allow them to take contingency actions. Adapt to the defense. When the quarterback goes to the huddle and calls a play and goes to the line of scrimmage, he may see something that is a threat or an opportunity. The threat may be, hey, I just called a running play and they're about to rush. They're about to rush everybody. So the quarterback may say, this play is about to get shut down. We're probably going to lose by 5 yards or lose about 5 yards. So the quarterback calls an audible and says, hey, listen, you know, I'm going to adapt to what I just saw. And now I'm going to use one of these contingency plays and I'm going to call it. Or the quarterback may see an opportunity. It's like, hey, out of the same thing, hey, they're about to rush. I'm going to call an audible and put a play. I'm going to put some men on the wings on the outside, and boom, they're going to streak down the field because it looks like it's going to be an easy catch. I don't know. I'm sure you get the point. But guess what? What if a team only had one play? That's it. They didn't have a playbook. They didn't have options. They couldn't really adapt to what was going on. They had one play. They're not going to win. They're just not going to win. because they become too predictable. There's no flexibility. There's no other options. I remember a long time ago, I used to tell people all the time, he with the most options wins. If you have options, you have a greater probability of winning because there's different things that you can go to do what? To adapt to what's changing in the environment. All right, you got that? All right, two more real quick. Two more. And this right here is exciting, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're in business. And because they really relate to growing a business, building income, whether you're network marketing or you're doing e-commerce or you're doing phone sales, public speaking, doesn't matter. There's two specific actions: promoting actions and exploiting actions. A promoting action is anything that you're doing to promote whatever it is you got, your products, your services, your brand, whatever. It's a promoting action. You're looking to instigate or start something positive to happen. It could be revenue. It can be leads. It can be customers, clients, patients. It can be anything, but they're promoting actions. They're the typical things that a person would do in business to get exposures, right? Because we know at the end of the day, we have to have the exposures. Doesn't matter how much time you're spending on your business. If you're not getting the exposures, you're going to find yourself in trouble. So those are promoting actions. Clearly sales and marketing type of activity. But the exploiting actions are sometimes what your entrepreneurs can miss out on, or individuals in general can miss out on. But to help you understand what I mean by the exploiting action, look at Disney. Regardless of how you feel about Disney, Disney will put together a movie and they will promote that movie, right? They'll promote the movie. They'll dump tens of millions of dollars into it. They'll promote the movie, get it into the theaters. When it's a winner, if it wins big, then they'll pivot to exploiting actions. They'll start to exploit the winning of the movie. And by the way, when I say exploit, I'm not talking about it in a negative sense. So let me share with you what I mean. All of a sudden, the characters will start showing up at Disneyland. They may have coloring books. They may have action figures. They may have toys and all these other things to exploit and continue to leverage that win. Does that make sense? Or think about athletes. Think about like Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan, he leaves from North Carolina. Boom. He's on the Bulls. He's playing. Everybody knows the guy's got mad skills. He's not winning any championships yet, but that does not negate the fact that, you know, this dude here is awesome. And as he starts to build his brand with more time in the league, you start to see what? An exploitation of him. And again, I'm not saying this in a negative way. So what was one of the companies that exploited him? What was it? Nike. But if you look at anybody, if you look at all kinds of athletes, it could be Michael Jordan, it could be Tiger Woods, it could be Serena Williams, it can be whomever. You pick your athlete. I think Maria Sharapova at some point, maybe even Steele, right? Whoever the athlete is that's on top. Look at mixed martial arts. Look at Conor McGregor, or again, whatever. All right, you just pick the person. They will exploit them to help further their own brand agenda. So we saw Nike do that with Michael Jordan, and they kind of do it with other athletes as well. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's smart, because what you're doing is you're leveraging your win. It's like if you're doing e-commerce, you're promoting a lot of different products, and a lot of those products are what? They're losing. Again, remember, and from the very beginning of this episode, I said action is a competitive advantage. And if you look at e-commerce, for anybody that does e-commerce, you'll know what I'm talking about here. A lot of people will give up and quit. They'll quit. They'll stop because they're tired of loading the products onto the store. They're tired of spending money on Facebook ads or on Google ads, and they're not getting the sales, or they're not getting enough sales to recover what it is they're spending, and they just want to get to that winning product, but they give up and they quit and they stop taking that action to get to the winning product. However, if you are persistent enough and you're consistent enough to keep going through the process of finding products and putting the products up and running it and putting together, however you're doing your ads, photo ads, video ads, however you're doing it, and you keep doing it, you eventually find the winner. But now what happens when you find the winner? Anybody that does e-commerce knows that what you do is you scale. And what is scaling in e-commerce is exploiting the winner. You're scaling that winner. You're scaling horizontally. You're scaling vertically. You're scaling it so that you can extract the maximum amount of juice in terms of profit from it, right? And then you're doing your lookalike audiences. You're doing everything to tap that baby out. Well, that's an exploiting action. Unfortunately, in life, many people do not act consistently enough to get to the point where whatever it is you're promoting wins and puts them in the position where they can now exploit that win. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that's really how you start to experience an acceleration of success. It's not going to be everything that you do that wins. Anybody that's been around long enough in business knows it's not going to be everything. It's going to be certain things. And you want to be aware of what those certain things are so that you can exploit those things. The campaigns on Facebook or on Google, the products, the messaging, the funnel, the autoresponder, whatever it is. The moment you got that winner, it's all in. It's all in, baby. So I have a question for you, right? Whenever you're taking action on anything, we're talking about business, so let's just talk about business. Do you look at the effects before choosing the action? In other words, because remember, we do live in a cause and effect environment, but not everything is direct cause and effect. For example, an acorn equals an oak tree. By genetics, if you look at how an acorn is designed, yeah, it equals an oak tree. But does it all the time equal an oak tree? No. There are certain things that have to be in place, like an environment. If you take an acorn and you plant it in the desert, despite its potential, is not going to equal an oak tree. Potential is still there. Genetic design is still there. Environment negates it because it's not in the right environment, right? So like your own mental environment, everything that you can do, everything you can create is possible, and it may be latent inside of you and you're not really tapping into it because of your own mental environment. And for some of us, it can be our physical environment. We don't engineer physical environments to help fuel our own performance, to help feed the kind of energy that we need to focus and get certain things done. We may be in chaotic environments, and that can undermine anything that it is that we want to do action-wise, whether it's corrective action, adaptive action, preventive action, contingency action, promoting action, or exploiting action. If you create an environment or you don't create an environment that helps serve that, then by default, you could be in an environment that's sabotaging it and preventing you from taking the appropriate action consistently enough to get the kind of result that you want to have. But I want to come back to the point of the adaptive action, because let me tell you something, that's the key to winning. Because most of the time when you do something, the first time you do it is not going to work. And if you approach it knowing out of the gate, I'm going to have to keep adapting until I win, it's going to be a lot easier to have that resiliency to bounce back from what doesn't work and to have that intestinal fortitude to keep going forward, as opposed to you being of the mindset that the first time you do it, it has to work or it's going to work. Now, if it works for the first time, hey, good for you. But that's not how it is for the most part. That may be the exception more so than it is the rule. So if you adopt the mindset that the primary action that I need to make sure that I'm committed to is adaptive actions to continue to adapt to what's happening. Anybody that does marketing knows you're constantly adapting and adjusting your headlines, your marketing messages, et cetera, until you dial it in to the winner, right? So another question for you. When you look at your life, you look at your health, you look at your relationships, you look at your business, you look at your career, you look at whatever it is you're doing, and the success that you want to have in that area, I want you to think and I want you to ask yourself, what corrective actions should you be taking right now, or could you be taking right now to put you on the right path and not repeat behaviors that are undermining you, procrastination, fear, or whatever those things are that are undermining you? Hey, what are some of the actions that I can take right now to correct those? One of the things and I think I've talked about this before, but there's a lot of information out there on it, like how you start your day in terms of your morning routine, setting yourself up today, bookending your day, really, your morning routine and your evening routine, how you start your day and how you end your day in a very deliberate way that sets you up to win that day in terms of the morning routine, and then sets you up to win the next morning based on how you close out your day. All those are different are choices, right? So I want you to think about that. Also, what adaptive actions could you choose to take, right, to ensure that whatever it is you're looking to do, you succeed at? I forgot, there's the book called The 5-Minute Rule. To me, that's really an adaptive action. If something is happening that you don't want to have happen, and you give yourself that 5-second rule, that's like, boom, you just jump on it and you just do it. I remember a long time ago when I was conditioning myself to get up at 3:30 in the morning. It wasn't easy. I mean, it's like 3:30 a.m. And when you're not used to getting up at 3:30 in the morning, your body wants to say, dude, nah, we're staying here. But when you say, hey, listen, the moment I wake up, and you can start with an alarm first and then wean yourself off the alarm. But when you commit that the moment you open your eyes, boom, you stand up and start doing jumping jacks to get this burst of energy. Because another choice is to lay there or to drag out of the bed. Oh my gosh, it's so early. And you can think about how early it is. Oh my gosh, it's still dark outside. Oh, this hurts. Or the moment you get up, you're so committed, you don't even give your body and brain an opportunity to resist it. You're up and you jump out of the bed, boom, jumping jacks, because you get that blood pumping, right? You start getting that oxygen into your system. And it's going to wake you up. It's going to wake you up long before the cup of coffee. Right? It's going to wake you up. You just start moving briskly. It's going to wake you up. I know that's what I've done. And all of a sudden, if you do it consistently enough, it'll start to become super easy. So now I only sleep in once a week. When I say sleep in, I'll sleep in, I don't know, maybe 7, 8, sometimes maybe 9 hours. Other than that, my routine is in bed by 9:30 for the most part, unless there's some things going on, because I want to read and do my wind down. Try to be asleep by 10:30, 11 o'clock, up at 3:30. Have a whole morning routine in the gym by 5 a.m. But I'm not touching much of anything work-wise. I'm definitely not on my email. And I don't even touch my phone. I just do all these other things to set myself up to win, hit the gym, post-workout type stuff. And then I start to get to the old the work and everything like that, right? But, planning your day before. There's certain things that you can do, but just understand the classification of it and how it's going to actually impact your success. Right now, going forward, where it is you want to go. You know what you want to accomplish. Right. So ask yourself, based on where it is I want to go, based on what it is I want to do and what I want to accomplish, what are some of the preventive actions I need to take to make sure certain things don't happen? Like an accountability partner can help prevent you from slacking off. For some people, going to the gym, to prevent them from doing weak workouts or just showing up and going through the motions, to prevent them from doing that, they'll get a personal trainer that's going to push them until they start become conditioned enough to pushing themselves, right? So there's certain things that you can do to help, prevent you from sabotaging yourself, right? But what are some contingency actions that you can take, right? So thinking about all the different actions, because we're going to wrap this up. Think about all the different actions. You have corrective actions, you have adaptive actions, preventive actions, contingency actions, promoting actions, and exploiting actions. As you look at your life, you look at your business, you look at your health, you look at your relationships, whatever area of your life right now that you're focused on that's most important to you to excel at and to see some improvement in, what in those 6 areas of actions could you take to set yourself up to win? And I would tell you right now, to me, one of the starting places is adaptive actions, because I think for a lot of us, many people complain and don't adapt. Again, don't get me wrong. You don't have to like what's going on, but you have to adapt. When there's a new president coming in, Democrat or Republic, love them or like them, doesn't matter. Everybody has to adapt to whoever that new president is, even if you're on the other aisle and you're complaining about them. you still have to adapt, right? So there's all kinds of things. I see people that complain about technology. Dude, how can you complain about technology? Oh, there's so many new social media platforms that are popping up. Okay, so what? That doesn't mean that your market is on all of them, right? But complaining about it doesn't make it go away. Complaining about it doesn't change it. Complaining about it is not adapting. I found, especially even in my life at certain times when I would go through certain things and I would complain about it. In dealing with a lot of people, I found that complaining was more a coping mechanism and not a signal that you wanted to change it. Right? A lot of people complain about their circumstances. They complain about their situation, and you think the complaint is a signal for help. They're signaling for help. No, it's just how they're coping with what's going on. They don't really want to change it. They don't really want to do anything about it. I found that to be true at a point in time in my life. And in dealing with people, I found that to be true. They complain. And that's just how they cope with what's going on, but they never take any type of action to change it or to deal with it or to find out how they can leverage it or use it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. So those are your 6 actions that can change your life. And real quick, you can take corrective actions. You can take adaptive actions, right? You can take preventive actions. You can take contingency actions. You can take promoting actions, and you can take exploiting actions. And remember, action is your number one competitive advantage, because whatever it is you feel you don't have in resources, your number one thing that you can do to get them, to make up for them, is action. If you take action big enough, you take action long enough, consistently enough, you will have an advantage. So remember, with all things, everything and anything, action is going to be your biggest teacher, your biggest point of leverage, and it will be your competitive advantage. So go ahead, take a look at those 6 actions that can change your life, and go out there and don't take one, don't take some, take massive, crazy, sick, out of this world, the kind of action that will make your competitors throw up. Take that kind of action, and it will change your life.
Thanks for listening to the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, successsculptingshow.com, to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archives of previous podcasts and check the schedule to join us for our next live streaming Success Sculpting Show webcast. This has been a Success Sculpting Incorporated production. Join us next time for another edition of the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce, and tell your friends.